Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm going to do a discussion about two of the best managers in my lifetime at Newcastle United. Kevin Keegan and Sir Bobby Robson. So just going to look at each one, where they came from, what they did at Newcastle. We're only going to count Kevin Keegan's first spell because his second spell wasn't really a spell, was it? It was clouded with controversy with Mike Ashley, and I think it's unfair. So when Kevin Keegan came into Newcastle United, we were in the old second division, which is the Championship, 92-93. 91-92 looked like we weren't going to do anything that season and were in danger of relegation. He stabilised us and then got us promoted the following season, and with that so both times Keegan has come in at a point of weakness, club struggling in the Championship equivalent, and then brought us up the season following, which is a huge achievement. So Bobby, when he came in, we were bottom of the league. Obviously, everyone remembers famously. He basically had taken over after had fallen out with Shearer. We just lost the Northeast Derby against Sunderland, and Shearer and Ferguson had been dropped, and the club was in chaos and looked like we were going to go down. And so Bobby came in. So you'd probably say that Kevin Keegan came in a position of a better position, because obviously we were in the league below. But so Bobby came in, and also team was in crisis, but did an incredible job. Fast forward to the season following, in 92-93 we went straight up as champions under Kevin Keegan, did an incredible job. And then 93-94 we did, you imagine a newly promoted side coming up. We had Andy Cole at the time, who was just on fire, and he basically scored, I think, 34 goals in 40-odd games. It was incredible for us. What a signing. He was a big signing from Bristol City, and he kind of changed everything for us. And that season, 93-94, we came third in the Premier League, which huge achievement for a newly promoted side. Did really, really well with a points tally of 77 points. If you look at Sir Bobby in comparison, obviously when he came in 99-2000, we were going down, struggling. He managed to stabilise us and get us to finish 11th, which was an incredible achievement. Got Shearer back scoring. Previously, it looked like he was very static. It looked like the knee injuries he'd had really affected him, and he did a really good job to get us into 11th. We also managed to get to an FA Cup semi-final, where we went to Wembley. Unfortunately, lost to Chelsea. It was, I think it was Gus Poyet who scored 2 goals for Chelsea. We lost 2-1. But, that's quite a good cup run. And to be honest, the one thing with both these managers where they don't score very well on is cup runs. I'll come back to that a bit later. Going back to Keegan, then 94-95 came 6th, did pretty decent. Obviously, there was a bit of a drop off, but we had, it's only our second season in the Premier League, and 6th position was very good, relatively. And really, he was starting to build that entertainers team, which would go on and challenge. So Bobby, again, finished 2000-2001, came 11th again. Stability. He was working on a restricted budget, but was starting to put together the transfers and build the squad up so that we could look like a bit of a threatening team then. And also that season, when we finished 11th, we managed to get into the Intertoto Cup for the next season, which maybe have helped us hugely. Looking then at 95-96, arguably our biggest season under Kevin Keegan. In it, we came second, but it was famous that we were 12 points clear. 12 points clear still boggles my mind. At the time, we were so good for the first half of the season, so good going forward. We'd always outscore teams. We looked incredible going forward, and it looked like we were going to win the title. And Man U just couldn't deal with us at that time. Then the second half of the season, yes, defensively we started conceding more. We were too open. We were really struggling. But to be honest, the big thing was that we stopped scoring. People say bringing in Faustino Asprilla halfway through the season unbalanced the attack. I don't tend to agree with that. I think generally it just wasn't quite right what we were doing. Keegan did try, but he couldn't quite get that balance right in the second half of the season. And we've got to give Man U credit. They were relentless. They were champions. They had experience. We didn't have that experience. And it showed. And they just kept winning, and we kept dropping points. And they were able to overturn it and win the league. And people will remember, I'd love it if we did this. I'd love it if we did that. And it's probably the saddest season for Newcastle fans who can remember it 25 years ago now. And still hurts, I think, everyone. I was only 7 when this happened. I remember it really clearly. And it's a tough time. Looking at Sir Bobby then. Sir Bobby then did an incredible season in 2001-2002, getting us to 4th position. The team that we had then, Speed, Dyer, Robert, Solano. We brought in Genus, Bellamy, Shearer, Lualua, Amiobi, Bernard, Given. I'm not going to mention our defenders because I think they were the weak point. But, we had such great players in that Bobby Robson team that came 4th, but we were so weak defensively. Centre-back, we struggled. If you remember, we had at the time the likes of Dabizas, O'Brien. I think we got Sylvain Distin on loan, and Sylvain Distin he hadn't developed into the Premier League stalwart he was. And it was it was clearly the weakness, because we had a world-class goalkeeper, we had a really good left-back in Olivier Bernard, but the rest of the team, the centre-backs and the right-back, were just not fit for purpose, to be honest. I think as well, our midfield wasn't balanced. Speedo was a brilliant player, a great footballer, but at the time he still wanted to go forward, and that would leave gaps and leave our defence exposed. But we still managed to finish 4th, and a lot of people, me and myself included, thinks if Craig Bellamy had got a knee injury towards the end of that season when we were in the running, we might have been able to put in a good title challenge. But Bellamy's knee was always susceptible to going, and it was a big disappointment. Looking at Keegan, the following season in 96-97, we were in 2nd position, but he had a falling out with the board at the time. He was concerned about the club going to a private limited company, famously resigned, and he left us in 2nd. We were in the mix at the time, but it looked like Man U were going to win the league, and Sir Kenny Dalglish came, and probably that was the start of the demise of Newcastle for a few years following it. A lot of people, myself included, wonder if we had put in another title race, would we have learnt from the 12 points? And I think sometimes you need that experience. But Kevin leaving, he probably could have been manager for years and years, but him leaving at that time, and I'm pretty sure if you ask him, he probably regrets leaving. I think he probably knows that if he'd stayed for a few more years, he probably would have been able to put in a title race, title challenge and everything, and possibly we would have won a cup or won the league. We lost all the momentum. Kenny Dalglish came in and did some terrible decisions, selling the likes of David Ginola and Les Ferdinand. We're never the same again, and it still makes me sad to this day, wondering, you always have these, what if he'd stayed for a couple more years, would we have won something? And I think we would have, because we were such a great attacking side. So Bobby then followed up the following season after finishing 4th. We finished 3rd. We also got to the Champions League last 16. I remember it was an incredible comeback it was back when there was phase 1, phase 2 groups, and we managed to win 3 games in a row, and somehow, with that famous win against Feyenoord away, Craig Bellamy with a last-minute goal, got through to the last 16, which would be quite a big achievement now. Obviously, at the time, it wasn't seen as a huge achievement, but people would have respected it. We've managed to finish third. We looked like we were going to do something huge, and it looked like this Newcastle team was going to do something. We had young, hungry players. We had the likes of real attacking talent. We looked like a team that could do some damage and really, really do incredible things. But I think for me as well, one of the big things which I always talk about is if we'd had Jonathan Woodgate fit for all the games. Again, injuries prevented. If you look at that time, we had Bellamy, Dyer, and Woodgate, who all were injury prone, and all players who make a huge difference to any team. So, whilst we finished third that season in 2002-2003, we needed to get closer, and Man U won the league that year. Arsenal came second, and we came third, and an incredible position to finish. And the problem was that summer we only went and got Lee Bowyer in on a free, and we didn't build on it, and we famously went out the Champions League qualifiers against Partizan Belgrade, and we're not quite the same. We kind of struggled that season in 2003-2004. Still a season now all of us would take. We came fifth. There was a lot of pressure on Sir Bobby because people felt with the squad we had we should be doing better. In hindsight and looking what happened afterwards, we all realise now that squad hugely underachieved. And we did manage to get to a UEFA Cup semi-final, which again is another point I'll give to Sir Bobby. We played Marseille. This was when Didier Drogba was just coming through. In the first leg, Jonathan Woodgate completely marked him out the game. Drogba couldn't get anywhere near it. Was completely nullified. Second leg, story of Woodgate's career, was injured. Aaron Hughes came in. Drogba tore him to pieces, scored 2 goals, and we were out of the UEFA Cup. And again, so close to getting to a UEFA Cup final, which would have been befitting for Sir Bobby, really. The summer afterwards, in 2003-2004, he basically was desperate for a centre-back, and he didn't get it. The squad they bought other players like Milner, Carr, Nicky Butt. Gary Speed was sold without his permission. We brought in Patrick Kluivert on a free, and it didn't sound like Sir Bobby's signing. He was desperate for a centre-back. He knew the weaknesses in centre-back. He read his autobiography. He kept saying we need a centre-back. The club then sold Jonathan Woodgate, and all these things were really troubling for us. Start of 2004-2005, he was already under pressure. Freddie Shepherd said this is his last season, he's too old, he can't be here forever. All these comments, which just amped up the pressure, and I think it was after 4 games, we lost Aston Villa 4-2. He was let go, and I think there was issues that supposedly he'd lost the dressing room and so forth, and that Freddie Shepherd wanted a disciplinarian to come in. That's why I went and got Graham Souness, and arguably is the worst decision in Premier League history for Newcastle. Both those decisions, going from Kevin Keegan to Sir Kenny Dalglish, and going from Sir Bobby Robson to Graham Souness, probably were huge parts of Newcastle's demise, and we've probably not recovered. So looking at them both, I'd say probably Kevin Keegan would score better on league positions and his achievement in where he took us from and where he took us to, and he would have probably won a trophy with us if he'd stayed for longer, but that was his own decision to leave. So definitely in league position, he slightly beat Sir Bobby Robson, but I think Sir Bobby, in terms of longevity and how long he managed to keep us and where he took us from as well, deserves huge amounts of credit. And if you throw in that he got us to an FA Cup semi-final and UEFA Cup semi-final in his tenure, I think they're probably equal because I think those 2 runs make a huge difference, and the Champions League run as well under Sir Bobby, probably. So I'd say they're equal. I'd probably say Sir Bobby didn't want to leave Newcastle, and we'll never know if he'd been able to bring in a centre back, if he'd been able to keep, if he'd been able to bring in a top quality centre back, and we'd kept Jonathan Woodgate fit, we definitely could have challenged for the title again. At the time, Freddie Shepherd was playing games, and whilst in the other case, Kevin Keegan left through his own decision. So for me, I'm going to give it to Sir Bobby just on the point of his cup runs, and that he didn't have the power to do things, and he would have stayed and he loved it. Whilst Kevin Keegan, I think his reign is slightly soured by the fact that he resigned and so forth when he could have gone on and achieved great things. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Who would you choose?